So while TikTok is just a platform for like brain rot, funny videos, cooking videos, honestly, the possibilities are endless. There's also a side of TikTok that is so important because it could spread a lot of information very easily, which has helped solve cases in real life. The first one I want to talk about is the TikTok teens who found a suitcase of human remains. This is a pretty popular one, and I'm sure you've heard of this before. And genuinely, just a crazy story overall. So the first thing that's important about this story is the app Randonautica. So this is an app that generates you random coordinates near your location and encourages users to explore the unknown and break out of their daily routines, essentially. So you choose the intention you want, like love, mystery, something creepy, and it gives you a GPS location to check out, basically. And this was during quarantine, was popping off, so when people were bored, they wanted to make this kind of spooky content using the Randonautica app. And a lot of the times it was like kind of harmless, like people would find really creepy abandoned buildings, old graffiti, or weird dolls, which sounds like it's not harmless because that's terrifying in itself, but there was actually a time that went very, very wrong. So this particular instance happened when the user at Henry posted a group of him and his friends arriving at Duwamish Head, which is a rocky beach area in Seattle. So they entered something scary on the Randonautica intention, and what they discovered was a black suitcase that was wedged in some rocks right at the edge of the water. And at first this video is very eerie because they're like, oh my god, what if it's money, and like, let's open it, like kind of joking, probably actually expecting there to be nothing in the suitcase because that's what I would expect. Yet they unzip the suitcase, the smell hits them almost immediately, and there are black plastic bags inside the suitcase that were tightly wrapped. They immediately called the police, and the police confirmed that there were human remains in the suitcases, which is just so crazy. I cannot imagine a fucking random app leading you to that. Don't like it. So these remains were later identified as Jessica Lewis, who was 35 years old, and Austin Wenner, who was 27 years old, and they were a couple from the Seattle area who'd been reported missing a couple days earlier. But that wasn't all, because then another suitcase washed up later that day, also filled with body parts. The remains had been dismembered and wrapped into plastic bags, suggesting a deliberate effort to dispose the body in a way that would slow the identification process. And so the Seattle police launched a whole homicide investigation. And the reason that this case is kind of unique is because the first 911 call wasn't from like a random person, it wasn't from a concerned neighbor. It was literally a group of teenagers using a viral app making a TikTok video and accidentally discovering a murder scene. Like, that's so nuts. Like, if you actually think about it, insane. Jessica and Austin were last seen alive on June 9th of 2020, about 10 days before their remains were discovered. And they didn't just disappear. Family members reported them missing. Their case wasn't getting a lot of attention until TikTok ended up blowing it up. And that's what kind of made the headlines start to turn. And that's what really helped move the investigation forward. And once this suitcase of human remains was located and confirmed to be this couple, TikTok went into detective mode, full on. They dissected every frame of the original video. They analyzed the suitcase, the location, the timestamps. They theorized about how the bodies got there, who could have done it, the app that led the teenagers there in the first place to that exact spot. And of course, some of it went really far. Like, the teens were getting harassed by people who were accusing them of staging the video, which was proven to be false. And other people, again, accusing them of planting the suitcase, which again, there was no evidence of. And ultimately, the reality of it is they were just kids messing around on the app. And the reason that this entire case got exalted into the media is strictly because they were making this TikTok. And that's kind of nuts. Like, if somebody else had just like randomly happened upon this suitcase and found it and like discovered that, like, yes, it would probably make news, but nowhere near as big as it was because we literally watched it unfold on TikTok. In August of 2020, police ended up arresting a man named Michael Lee Dudley, who was a 62-year-old man who had been renting a room to Jessica and Austin in his home. The couple had been living with him, but apparently they fell behind on rent, and neighbors reported hearing a violent altercation and gunshots on June 9th, the same day that Austin and Jessica were last seen alive. When police searched Dudley's house, they found bullet holes, blood stains, bags matching those that the remains were wrapped in, and incredibly, one of the most damning pieces of evidence by far is from a neighbor's Ring camera, which captured the sound of the gunshots on the night in question. So he was charged with second-degree murder, and I'm very convinced that without the viral attention that this case got, because all of it unfolded on TikTok, I don't think that this would have been solved. Like, at least not as quickly as it was. That's kind of crazy. Like, I mean, theoretically, if someone kills someone and like dismembers their entire body, puts them in a suitcase and puts them in the ocean, you would think it would take more than 10 days for this to be discovered and like talked about. And yet it happened like this because of TikTok, and that's kind of nuts. So a lot of people also went on to believe that Randonautica was some sort of cursed or evil app, and it was just leading people to something really fucking sketchy. But the thing is Randonautica doesn't actually know where to send you. It just uses random number generators based on your location and your selected intention. So when the teens chose something scary, it wasn't the app that sent them to the body, it was just a coincidence. Maybe, which I don't know. Still, again, the incident to this day gave Randonautica a dark reputation, and for months TikTokers were posting their various videos of their own Randonautica experiences, hoping to uncover something as equally terrifying. And honestly, it's just very haunting to think, like, if they hadn't been filming this video, if they hadn't been doing this TikTok trend, how long would it have taken to find those bodies and identify those people? It's pretty terrifying, honestly. All right, the next true crime case that was partly solved by using TikTok was the Idaho murder case. So on the morning of November 13th, 2022, a horrifying discovery was made in a small college town of Moscow, Idaho. Inside a house just off of the University of Idaho campus was 4 students who were found brutally murdered in their sleep. This case was obviously huge. It was very chilling and scary. There were no signs of forced entry. At the time, there were no suspects and there was no murder weapon. So it all unfolded and scared the hell out of a lot of people, and no one knew what actually had happened. But there started to be some online speculation of an obsession over a white Hyundai Elantra that was spotted on surveillance footage near the crime scene. For weeks, TikTok users pried through footage, analyzed parking lots, tracked down VIN numbers, and exposed dozens of potential suspects, sometimes getting terrifyingly close to the truth before the police even went public with the information. So 3 weeks into the investigation, the police actually made the request to the public that they were looking for a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra seen on surveillance footage near the house during the window of the murders. And that's it. There was no plate, no owner, just a blurry image of a car driving by, and people went full FBI mode on TikTok, okay? They were matching the car to similar models, cross-referencing dealership sales records, geolocating the footage of nearby streets, creating timelines of wherever this car was before and after the murders, and digging into any University of Idaho student or local resident that had access to that kind of car. So some people were definitely like falsely accused at this time, but other people got really close to the truth before his actual arrest. So on December 30th of 2022, more than a month and a half after the murders, police arrested 28-year-old Brian Kohlberger in Pennsylvania, over 2,000 miles away from the crime scene. He was a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University, which is just a 15-minute drive from the Idaho campus. And yes, he drove a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. So according to surveillance, the car had been seen not once or twice, but at least 4 times, just circling the victims' neighborhoods in the early hours of the murders up until 4:20 a.m. When the police finally ran his name, they realized that the car had been pulled over twice during a cross-country road trip with his father, and they were in the exact car that they were looking for. TikTok users were absolutely stunned because honestly, a lot of them connected these dots before the police even did. Like, some TikTokers were out there identifying Brian Kohlberger by name before the police officially did so, which is actually nuts. One TikToker even cross-referenced parking violations and class schedules, which placed Brian Kohlberger in the right area at the right time. And again, she obviously ended up being correct. Again, even though technically like the police kind of had their own case going and solved it in their own way, it is very interesting that non-professional people on TikTok were able to figure this out as well, just having the knowledge that they did, which was just publicly available stuff, which is kind of nuts if you think about it. And these aren't like FBI agents that like quit their job. These are like young teenagers, usually moms. I feel like people who are just into true crime in general. So many people are just using these skills that are absolutely insane and solving a crime faster than the police, who have more information. That's kind of nuts. Another popular case that was solved with the help of TikTok is the Gabby Petito case. I think this is such an important thing to talk about because honestly, like, who knows if this case would have been solved as quickly as it was, if not for the virality that it had on TikTok. So in the summer of 2021, the internet fell into a collective obsession trying to figure out where Gabby Petito was. She was missing. Gabby Petito and her fiance Brian Laundrie were documenting their van life journey across the United States. They were a young couple, and Gabby was trying to be a YouTuber. She wanted to have a van life YouTube channel, and she was recording and documenting a lot of what was happening on this road trip. So Gabby was reported missing on September 11th, 2021, 10 days after her fiance Brian Laundrie returned to Florida without her. So he returned home, drove their van alone, and refused to speak to police, refused to speak to Gabby's family altogether. And the last time that she contacted her parents was on August 25th. So during that entire thing, the Petitos are obviously freaking out. Their child is missing. And the Laundries are just ignoring them. They're not answering the calls. They're not talking to police. They're not saying anything about where Gabby could be, not offering any help, which is obviously suspicious. And we now know that that's true. So TikTok ended up kind of breaking this case open because, again, at this point, Gabby was just missing and nobody knew what happened to her. People had speculations, but were still hopeful that they would find her alive. But there was another married couple who were also van life influencers, Jen and Kyle Bethune, and they were on a road trip with their kids, and they saw something strange on the side of a dirt road in Wyoming. So after Gabby Petito's case began going viral, Jen ended up pulling up their dash camera style footage from August 27th. They're scrubbing through it in search of anything that would seem relevant to the Gabby Petito case, and there it was. Gabby's van, right in her footage. This was the same white Ford Transit that she and Brian had been traveling in. It was parked off of a dirt road, alone, no movement, no people in sight, but unmistakable. Like, same stickers, same ladder, same make and model. No doubt about it, that was Gabby Petito's van. And Jen immediately uploaded the footage to TikTok and YouTube, and her post went viral. Viewers zoomed in and claimed to see some flip-flops on the ground. Other people noticed that the back door seemed a little ajar. And again, the timestamp was incredibly crucial because it placed the van in Wyoming on the same date that Gabby's parents said that they lost contact with her. So law enforcement actually ended up taking this video very seriously, and on September 19th of 2021, investigators searched the area where the van was filmed, and that same day they found Gabby Petito's remains in a camping area. And without this footage, it's possible that her body would have never been recovered or been taken way longer to discover. But this specific video and the virality of it on TikTok genuinely helped narrow down the exact location for the police to search in an enormous wilderness. Like, who knows how long it would have taken them to find her. Not to mention, after Gabby was found, Brian Laundrie was like the most talked about person on the internet at that time. People were trying to find out where he was because he was missing. But it wasn't until October 20th when Brian Laundrie's remains were found in the Carlton Reserve in Florida, near where Brian's parents said that he went hiking. Again, dental records confirmed that Brian Laundrie was dead, and he wrote a confession about how he killed Gabby, but he said it was like an accident, like she had hurt herself and like he wanted to take her out of her misery, which is just obviously not true. And honestly, it just shows the helpfulness of virality and TikTok and the internet, because this case was literally solved the way it was because of the internet. That's just like factually what happened. Without that dash cam footage, I don't even know how long this case would have taken to search. Brian Laundrie could have gotten away with it. There's so many other aspects here that could have happened that are just very, very dark. So again, I think it's so interesting and important to talk about how great TikTok is as a tool of helping solve crimes. It's kind of nuts, like when you actually think about it. These are straight up things that would not have been solved or would have taken way longer to solve without the use of TikTok. And that's pretty crazy. Like, it's always interesting to see like a group of people come together and try to solve a crime that's happening in real time. Like, I wish all crimes that were happening would get this kind of virality happening and going on. And it just makes you think, like, had TikTok existed in some of the most infamous true crime cases of all time, like JonBenet Ramsey. So many different instances that it makes you wonder if those cases would be solved today had we had something like TikTok in the 90s. I don't know. I kind of think so. I think people really love feeling like a part of something and feeling like they are helping in some way. And honestly, they are. Like, they are. And they're doing a lot of work that ends up helping the police solve a lot of crimes. Like, that's pretty cool and kind of crazy if you think about it. But anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below if there's any other cases that were solved by TikTok that you want me to talk about. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.